Lovebugs. Today's Sarah's birthday.
For my birthday today, we're watching one of my favorites, the 2006 cult classic, John Tucker Must Die, featuring an early-aughts all-star cast. Serial cheater John Tucker has messed with the wrong girls. His ex-girlfriends band together to teach him a lesson, make him fall in love with the new girl, and eventually break his heart. Things don't go exactly to plan, though, so let's get started.
Basketball star John Tucker has a strategy. He dates multiple women from different cliques at his high school, lies to them, and tells them he can't have a girlfriend during basketball season. 3 of his girlfriends find out and make a plan for revenge. Break John Tucker's heart. The key to this plan? The new girl, Kate.
This is an all-star lineup. All of them have recognizable names, at least to me. Jesse Metcalfe, Ashanti, Brittany Snow, Sophia Bush, Penn Badgley, and Arielle Kebbel.
She was Lindsay on Gilmore Girls, Dean's wife.
Oh, I totally forgot that I knew her from that.
Me too. It took me until this recording to realize who she was.
For me, her most recognizable role was Stefan's friend Lexi on Vampire Diaries. The tagline of this movie is "Don't get mad, get even," which is questionable advice.
Yes, it really is. I understand wanting to get even in this situation. I totally would have been ready to have a revenge plot.
Oh, same. Probably still would now. If it was a guy like this.
Yeah, their plot was interesting because it could go one of 2 ways: make him see the error of his ways, or make him into a serial multi-woman dater because he got his heart broken. They're lucky it turned out the way it did.
Yes, it worked out perfectly. I could see it having a different outcome and him becoming worse rather than getting better.
Yeah. Disclaimer, if you're trying to do a revenge plot, it might not work out like a nicely scripted rom-com. So the movie opens on Kate talking about how she feels invisible and never makes connections. We see part of that is because she moves all the time.
Also, I totally forgot that Jenny McCarthy was in this.
Me too.
Kate calls all her mom's boyfriends Skip because that's eventually what they all do. Next, we get our intro to John Tucker. And I love that in the movie they described him as somewhere between an Abercrombie model and a Greek god, because that is such an accurate way to describe Jesse Metcalfe.
Yes, that is.
And then we get an intro to all the girls.
Yes. We get like a little snippet of what their personalities are and how they react to the other ones just outside of John Tucker.
Beth is an activist who cares about animals. Heather is a cheerleader. And Carrie is a school news anchor.
Yes.
They all had completely different personalities and interests. I know that John finds that helpful to keep them separate from each other, but I found it helpful to keep them separated as characters in my head.
I did too. And also that none of them look alike. This helped a lot that John doesn't have a specific visual type that he goes for.
I appreciate that about him. Like, if you're going to be a womanizer, you know, at least even out who you're going to use, I guess. Like, don't have one specific type.
Appreciate all women.
The cheerleaders are doing a routine to Man Eater by Nelly Furtado. It made me really excited for all the music throwbacks that I'm expecting to come up in this movie.
Yes.
I don't know why Carrie is shitting on cheerleaders like they're not doing anything. Cheerleading is an actual sport. It is hard. Carrie, I don't see you out there dancing.
Yeah, dancing is really, really hard. It's probably one of those
internalized misogyny things.
That, and also maybe potential jealousy. For me in high school, I didn't understand all these concepts. I totally said things about other people that I should not have, but didn't realize what it meant.
Oh, same. So I can understand Carrie making an offhand comment like that in high school.
Yeah. I feel like internalized misogyny is a lot worse when you're younger.
Absolutely.
So Kate got a job at a restaurant John Tucker takes all his ladies to.
When Kate walks up to wait on John, she is so awkward. She curtsied.
I'm surprised John doesn't remember that when he meets her later.
Oh, true. She was probably still invisible at that point to him.
Probably. But I think I would remember someone that curtsied at me.
I absolutely would, because I went on a date with someone who curtsied at me at the end of our date, and I have never forgotten that.
So no second date?
No, mostly because he was not honest about his height. I don't have an issue with dating someone shorter than me. I have an issue with dating people who are deceitful. Okay, so at first, John is by himself, but then Carrie shows up talking about like all of her academic accomplishments. And I was like, you are so smart. Why are you dating this guy?
Yeah, I agree.
Kate walked up to take their order in the middle of them making out. Read the room.
Yeah, wait till they're done. They don't need you to take their order right now.
So when Kate comes back, he's on a date with Heather. It would make sense for her to be dating the captain of the basketball team, but she can also do better.
They all could.
No women deserve to be two-timed. All these women are so much smarter than John. And we see that by the plan that they concoct, which is actually like a pretty genius plan.
Yeah. So John orders for Heather.
Do any women actually enjoy when a man orders for them? I like when people order for me only because I get really anxious about ordering, but only after we've discussed what I plan on ordering.
Yes. And once you've made it clear, like, I don't want to because I am anxious.
Yeah.
I've never had someone order for me. Maybe it's a movie thing. And then we see John on a date with Beth, the vegan activist.
Yeah. Why does being a vegan teen activist mean you're easy?
I think in a lot of movies, at least around this time, there's definitely a trope that if you are a female activist, you're easy, which is not the case.
I have a question for John here. Why would you take multiple girls out to the same restaurant?
Maybe it's one that he doesn't expect they'd ever go to on their own.
But I feel like if John is putting enough thought into it that he's going to pick girls from different cliques, why would he not also choose different restaurants?
One of his exes worked there too. The one that's still holding on to her feelings about John Tucker.
Yeah. She explains to Kate that John dates girls in different cliques, so they never talk to each other. So then at school, at gym class.
Yes. John Tucker caused the other gym teacher to have a cardiac event. I kind of like that he caused his own demise because they got combined because of him.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't thought of it like that.
So they're all on the same volleyball team.
And Carrie just says out loud that she's dating John Tucker. Heather is serving the ball. So she is all the way back at the end of the volleyball court. And she can hear Carrie say this. She did not say it quietly.
No, she did not. What a way to keep a secret. Just announce it to the whole gym class.
And then Heather hits her in the head twice with the volleyball.
Yeah. After they get in the giant fight, Kate calls them out for all getting mad at each other instead of getting mad at John. I think that's a very common thing, to get mad at the person that your partner's having the affair with, as opposed to getting mad at your partner for their actions.
Yeah, it's very common to get mad at the other woman instead of getting mad at the person who actually hurt you, who's your significant other.
I was glad that she called out the misdirected anger.
Yeah, I'm glad that Kate helps them all to see that they should actually be mad at John instead of each other.
Yeah. And then they all get detention.
Kate goes to detention early.
Yeah, I would totally do that too.
And we get our intro to the other Tucker.
Yeah, he gives me very 10 Things I Hate About You vibes.
He personally doesn't give me 10 Things I Hate About You vibes, but the song playing when we meet him is in 10 Things I Hate About You. So Scott is the name of the other Tucker, and throughout the movie, he just became more and more like Michael from Princess Diaries to me, and so by the end, I was like, no.
Oh, I'm curious to hear how that happens, because I did not get that vibe from him.
Okay, I've got more notes coming.
Okay.
At this point, they're both awkward and shy, so I think they'd be cute together.
Yes, I do too.
Especially since he noticed her while she feels invisible, and she actually has the ability to talk to him without getting flustered.
Oh, this is like Mia and Michael. He liked her before she went through the transformation.
Oh, yeah, true. At this point, Scott is kind of adorable, but I definitely don't feel that way later.
Oh, I'm so curious about that. So we also get to see how John reacts when Heather confronts him about all the other girls.
He reassures her by avoiding the question and whispering sweet nothings in her ear.
I'm really glad that Heather brings it up when they're in detention, because all the other girls have had the same talk with John Tucker.
Yeah, he fed them all the same lines because they all say them together. But it was pretty funny how they all like came to that realization together because they were all repeating the speech that he gave them.
Yeah, it was. Kate introduces the idea of getting revenge. Yes, she's trying to make friends and help these women out. But at the same time, I wonder if there's also a part of her trying to get revenge on all the guys that have treated her mother the way that they've treated her.
Totally. I'm glad that Kate helps them see that they should all be working together and that they could be allies with each other.
Yes, I don't think Kate has malicious intentions besides the ones towards John Tucker. I just think that some of this plotting might be, especially because she's experienced her mother's relationships.
Beth has a good point here, that breaking up with John Tucker isn't going to do anything because he would have another girlfriend immediately because girls are lining up at the chance to date him.
Yeah, when I was thinking through what their revenge could be, there really aren't a lot of options to actually teach him a lesson about everything. And like Beth says, breaking up is not going to be a beneficial thing.
I can see why they'd feel like getting revenge is the only option they have. Like, the only way for their feelings to be heard and have an impact is to get revenge on him and make him hurt the way that he hurt them.
Right. And to understand maybe that what he's been doing is wrong.
Beth is asking Kate about who she is because she doesn't recognize her. And she asks if Kate was the girl who had bulimia or if she's the girl who went to fat camp. One thing that I read about this movie is that Brittany Snow, the actress who plays Kate, was in rehab for an eating disorder. She left a day early to come film this movie. So that felt insensitive.
Yeah, I would hope they talked to her about it first.
I was like, I'm not going to bring this up unless they make some joke in the movie. And then they did.
Heather, Carrie, and Beth all show up to Kate's house.
Beth shows up saying, I'm not normally okay with the slaughter of animals, but for John Tucker, I'll make an exception. 'Cause same.
Yeah, it's kind of amusing that by John Tucker being the way that he is bringing this group of women together to form friendships.
Mm-hmm. So they come up with this plan to take down John Tucker, starting with making him undateable by having him model for an ad for herpes.
Yes.
This first move that they do is problematic. Let's not shame people for their health status.
Especially because most people who get STIs get them from people not telling them that they have them.
Yeah, it's victim blaming.
Yeah, it's out of their control. I do appreciate how John Tucker can turn everything around, though. Like, by them making fun of people with herpes, he turns it around to bring awareness to people with STIs.
Yes, I love that everything the girls do to John Tucker has no effect because he can just play everything off.
Yeah, he's so resilient. I think he probably did very well in life.
I feel like this plot idea has been used several times, and I'm glad it has died out a little and that we've generally become more understanding about not judging people's health.
Yeah, same.
Back at Kate's house.
Yes, the mom seems skeptical about the herpes thing, which I appreciate that someone's like, maybe that's not the best idea.
The girls are talking about Carrie being obsessively organized, and her response is, at least I'm not medicated, which, again, let's not shame people for their health. Heather has her mom's estrogen pills, which is what Carrie was referring to when she said, at least I'm not medicated.
And then they decide to give John estrogen.
They say, what's more terrifying to a man than not being manly? But let's not drug people.
Yeah, the whole drugging him, not great. Don't drug people.
Yeah. Considering he hasn't drugged anyone, I don't think it's necessary to drug him. However, the date rapists out there who drug people totally deserve to be drugged back. If we're choosing to ignore how wrong this is for the sake of enjoying this movie, it is a pretty good strategy to mess up John Tucker's game.
Yeah. He relies a lot on stereotypical masculinity. So by making him more vulnerable, they hope they'll be bringing John Tucker down.
Yes. And I think if it was any other guy, these strategies would work because they're really like smart strategies. They're very thought through. But John Tucker is untouchable, apparently. Literally nothing affects him.
Yeah, he can spin any story.
As Heather puts the estrogen in his, what is it?
His bulk up powder.
Oh, yeah. It was kind of funny to do a role reversal where a girl is negging a guy because John Tucker is so manipulative towards these women. So it was nice to see them play him in his own game, you know, because she was negging him about his muscles and how they weren't big enough. I was like, well, maybe if you hadn't manipulated her, she wouldn't know how to manipulate you back.
Yeah, exactly.
But she actually negs Kate too later, so maybe that's just a Heather thing.
Yeah, not crazy about how they all treat Kate or each other. But again, high school, you're learning.
Yeah.
Kate is in chemistry class and Scott walks up and wants to be her partner because of a small mishap he had with his partner. And I don't know if I'd want to be partners with somebody whose lab partner was out because of an accident that they caused.
The story is funny and endearing, but it would not make me want to be his partner. You're cute and I like your personality, but I don't want to be science lab partners.
And maybe she feels like it's safer since they're measuring water too. Maybe she's like, okay, well, no fires involved, so this might work out okay for today.
Yeah, I do love that she takes charge and starts instructing him how to do things. She's so sure of herself around him, whereas she's so awkward.
She hasn't curtsied at him yet.
Yeah. She's so awkward and uncomfortable around everyone else. She seems really confident around him.
She does. I personally like their energy together.
Yes, I think they're a good match, even though I don't like him. He spills salt water on himself and freaks out.
I feel like he's not doing well in this chemistry class.
No, he's definitely failing this chemistry class. At the big basketball game, John's estrogen is kicking in, so his breasts are tender. He's getting upset with everyone and is very emotionally sensitive. All around, I'm not loving this first strategy that the girls are employing because bad to drug people. And also, yes, it's funny how emotional he's acting, but it's gross that they're perpetuating these stereotypes about women being overly emotional and sensitive.
Not a fan of this strategy.
Yeah. Plus, it doesn't even work because he plays it off.
Right. Because the next day at school, none of the guys want to interact with him at all. But all of the girls are like, hey, here's my number. And John's like, okay, cool. I've got a whole new set of ladies.
Which then gets him back in the good graces of all the men.
Yes. And he dumps Heather, Carrie, and Beth.
He says, I think there's only one girl for me, and it's not you. What a horrible way to break up with someone.
It really is.
You can think that, but don't say that to someone.
Yeah, there are much nicer ways to say that.
He deserved all 6 of those slaps.
Yes, he did.
But I do love that they end up using that line back on him. Like, it's harsh, but if you're going to walk around saying that to people, you should probably be prepared for someone to say it back.
Yes, you should. So John breaking up with all these women prompts them to reconvene at Kate's house and come up with a new plan. I like the friendship they're building.
My only comment about this scene is that Beth calls herself a slut. I don't really like using the word slut to describe anyone.
Same. In high school, I didn't fully understand the connotation of the word. However, now I do. And I would not use that to describe anyone. This is also where they come up with the idea to have Kate date John, make him fall in love, and then break his heart.
It was kind of messed up that they manipulated Kate into agreeing to do this scheme with them.
Yeah, it comes up in the next few scenes that she's probably not the one who should be doing this.
She just wants friends so badly, and they dangled that in front of her so she'd be scared of losing them. So she feels like she has to agree or she'll lose her new friends.
Yeah, not a fan of that approach.
So now Kate's a cheerleader.
Does not seem like a really good idea to have your never cheered before new member be the top of a pyramid, especially a standing pyramid.
I'm surprised people did not get seriously injured.
Yeah, so she is in cheerleading practice, and then they go out in the hall, and John asks his brand new ex, Heather, about Kate, and Kate casually accidentally punches a wall.
John calls her cute, which Heather then relays that info to Kate, and Kate gets way too excited about John saying she's cute.
And that's when they realize that Kate has never had a boyfriend before. And I do not think that this should have been her first relationship.
No. I am glad, though, that when they all find out she has no prior dating experience, give her advice on how to act instead of getting mad at her or being disappointed. They still want to go forward with the plan.
Yeah.
I just thought it was sweet that they still believed in her ability to do the plan.
They don't accuse her of lying or anything like that because she didn't really lie. They just kind of assumed, and they do still encourage her.
So then Beth uses the R word. Like, what? I understand it used to be used more commonly, but Jesus Christ, let's retire this word, please.
Yes, it's very jarring to hear it now because people have realized that it's not a good thing to call people or use as an insult.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't use any other slur to talk about people, why would you use that one? So then Kate goes out in the hall and John comes up to her. She is counting so slowly.
She is, and she's counting out loud.
But it ends up working for her. He's totally obsessed with the mystery, and her playing hard to get just makes him even more intrigued.
Yes, it does. They're in chem class, and Kate and Scott are at their chem lab table.
Yes, so this is the point where I started getting Michael vibes from Scott, because he ambiguously asked Kate on a date instead of being straightforward about it.
I totally missed that he asked her on a date.
Yeah, he was like, if I hear of any cool shows sometime, or you want to go see some music together, we should totally do that.
Yeah, I don't know. That seems way more up in the air, because that's like, hey, maybe sometime do you want to hang out at some point?
Dude, just ask her out. Like, she does not know you're interested. It could have easily been a friend date. It's not necessarily romantic if you don't clarify that you want it to be romantic.
Well, maybe he just wanted to get to know her better. Next, I have John asking Scott for help with Kate.
He's asking Scott for advice about getting Kate's attention, and Scott says she listens to obscure podcasts. I did not know that podcasts were around in 2006.
Same. They started in 2004 with the roots being audio blogs, which date back to the 1980s. But podcasting began to catch hold in late 2004.
Interesting.
There's a scene where the next day Kate comes into school with a ton of bags and she is struggling a lot. And Scott comes up and helps and flat out tells her that John wants him to find out information about her for him and that he's supposed to be subtle about it. And they seem to have a good interaction. I think he's kind of bummed at the end because his brother's interested in the girl he likes. And now the basketball scene where he's playing basketball and asking her out and needs to make the shot, but won't until she says yes.
Yeah, he's wasting the game time. His coach comes up and is like, John, I understand and respect your emotional needs, but you've got to play.
Yeah. Kate says yes to the date. And now they're at Kate's house, putting on her little microphone and camera to get her ready to go to the beach. At the beach, suddenly everyone knows who Kate is, which surprised me. But maybe his whole basketball stunt made everyone know who she is. I don't have a lot of thoughts about the actual beach scene, except the way she burns the marshmallow and then throws it on the ground. Gross, someone's going to step on that. I like burned marshmallows. And then he offers to drive her home.
That seemed really abrupt. They were in the middle of making s'mores. At this beach scene, I also noticed her low-rise jeans. All these low-rise jeans can burn in a dumpster fire and never come back.
Yes, I am not a fan. Don't miss them.
Not at all. I'm going to stick with my high-waisted jeans and mom jeans. Although I haven't actually worn jeans for probably 2 years because of the pandemic. So maybe I'll just never go back to jeans.
I wore a pair once a few months ago. No desire to do it again. I really like the scene in the car where Beth's trying to figure out what Kate knows about kissing. And I really appreciate how cool they both are with Beth just showing Kate how to kiss him.
For the longest time, I did not know that they actually kissed in this movie because I had only seen it on TV on ABC Family, which is now Freeform, but they would cut the kiss out.
That's disappointing.
This one is so PG. It's a peck. Why would they cut this out besides homophobia, obviously? We literally see the same kiss from her and John Tucker later. But then John shows up while Beth is still in the car, so she just has to hide in the back.
Beth finds a hemp bra in the back, and she takes it with her. I've never understood how people just forget their bras places.
I don't like being that exposed. John drops Kate off at her house and says if he walks her to her door, he'll be too tempted to kiss her, and he wants to take things slow. But she has to distract him from Beth climbing out of his car, so she pulls him in for a kiss, but they bump heads.
So Kate comes in all drenched. Her mom's there, and her mom is talking to her about what she's doing and what kind of person she's becoming. Kate was like, I was nobody before. Totally understand why she says that. I would probably say something similar in high school. But I do appreciate that her mom is being like, hey, like, you're changing who you are. Is this really what you want to do? Okay, and then all the girls are upstairs in Kate's room watching John drive by.
Is this a real thing that happened in the past, that after a date, a guy would drive by your house and call you a bunch of times? Because that's like stalker level.
I have no idea. So now Kate is on her date with John, and they start to walk towards the restaurant that Kate worked at.
Where he takes all his dates.
His usual date spot. And he's like, no, we're not going to go there. And he takes her onto his boat.
Yes. And we find out this is uncharted territory because no one else has been in the boat.
This scene made me not like their whole plan because it felt like he was changing up how he was approaching the date. This seemed like it was something special to him. And he got vulnerable with Kate and she got vulnerable with him. It made me feel very bad that his heart was about to get broken if I forgot all the other things he did earlier.
I wasn't feeling bad for him yet about the whole revenge plot, but I did feel kind of bad because you can tell at this point that he is actually into Kate.
Yeah, this is a very different situation for him than just another girl in another clique.
The ex-girlfriends are all following along in a dinghy. Heather pulls the motor and it falls off the boat.
Yeah, she hits it a few times.
Beth tries to call AAA, but made me notice how old their cell phones were.
Yeah, this movie is full of old technology.
On the boat, I can see why Kate is starting to fall for John. He's beautiful. He's also telling her everything she wants to hear. If you were in Kate's position, how would you know if he's being genuine? Because he's done this same thing with other girls aside from the boat. He's done this whole thing before.
Right. There's no way you would know. We as viewers get to know because we have a different perspective, but she has no idea because it could just be a different date spot and he's telling her all the same stuff that he tells everyone else.
Back at the school, Carrie sneaks into the men's locker room with her video camera and hides in a locker.
People in high school, especially, are really learning who they are. And I think John's starting to realize what a deeper connection with another person can feel like. And this is where I started to worry that this situation could very easily backfire, make him build up more walls, and then go back to his previous ways. And then we would get another Henry Roth from 50 First Dates. Now, Kate and Scott are in chem class. And she goes up to him and she's trying to make jokes and be a normal person to him. And he is not having it. To me, he's trying to distance himself.
To me, Scott is giving major Michael vibes from Princess Diaries because he was friends with her because he wanted to date her. But now that she's dating someone else, he's not interested in being friends with her. It's this trope that men and women can't be friends because men only want to be friends with women if they think they're going to get laid. So now that he's been friend zoned, he's not taking it well. And that, to me, makes him one of those nice guys.
One of those nice guys that tells you they're a nice guy and they're not.
A nice guy who's not actually a nice guy, but calls himself a nice guy, even though no one else has ever said that he's a nice guy.
Yeah, uses the term to deflect rejections that have happened.
Anyone who self-identifies as a nice guy is not an actual nice guy.
Yeah, 100% agree. So after Scott blows her off, the movie picks up again at Kate's house and Skip shows up. Pilot Skip shows up. Kate brings up how her mom's actions have influenced Kate's life.
I wish they were able to sit down and discuss this calmly. I mean, Kate's a teenager, so it's understandable that her emotions are not super controlled during this conversation. And she does make good points. Her mom's relationships totally influence her perception of romantic relationships.
Oh, absolutely.
Your parents' relationship is usually the first example that kids have of a relationship. So if you're modeling unhealthy dynamics in front of your kids, of course that affects them and sets them up to have those same dynamics in their own relationships. I didn't like that Kate's mom didn't acknowledge that at first. Maybe she was like subconsciously aware, but wasn't ready to admit to herself how she's affecting her daughter's love life.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
So they're at the hotel at the away game. And I would feel a lot better about the girls getting even with John Tucker if they weren't having to coerce Kate to help them.
Me too. This whole situation seems to start getting into a deeper type of destruction than they were at before.
Yeah, I think their original plan was just to destroy John Tucker. And at this point, we start to see they don't seem to care about side casualties. They don't care who else gets hurt in the process as long as John Tucker gets hurt.
I think at this point, it seems like they see Kate as a means to an end, which really sucks for Kate.
Poor Kate. She just wants friends.
They grow eventually, but right now, not happy with them.
Yes. In the hotel at the away game, the girls got some lingerie for Kate to wear, and she tries it on and walks out of the bathroom, and Carrie says, "You should totally wear underwear to school." But Kate looks so good in this lingerie. Oh my God.
She does. I think I would have felt mildly uncomfortable wearing lingerie for friends like that.
Oh, definitely. I did not have any body confidence in high school.
Same.
Kate video chats John, and at least he kicks Tommy out of the room. That was like one positive for John.
Yes, it was.
He is clearly whipped if he's willing to climb from balcony to balcony to get to her room.
He is very determined to get to her. Also, why does he only wear a towel? Like you're scaling a building.
It seems very risky to climb on the outside of a building in a towel.
A big gust of wind would knock that off. He climbs into the dark room, takes off his towel, and the female coach comes out of her bathroom.
It's hilarious that he ends up in her room. Apparently, John Tucker wearing a thong was not in the original script.
Oh.
Originally, Kate talked him into shaving his head, but the director thought making him wear a thong would be funnier.
Yeah, I like the way they went with it.
Me too. So then John gets dragged out of her room by his ear and taken to his coach's room. This was the point where I was not happy with the coach because he comes out and says that he's not equipped to deal with this weirdness. Let's not kink shame anyone.
So I didn't like most of this hallway scene and the following bit of it. I really wish that the female coach had let him grab his towel. I feel really bad for John for how much fun people are making of him, how people are taking pictures of him. And then the next day at school, people have posted pictures of him all over the hallways.
I did feel bad for him for a moment in the hallway. I just appreciate how John ends up playing off this prank by making it trendy for men to wear thongs.
I wonder if the coach ever wore a thong after all the other administrators started to.
I hope he did. Get him out of his comfort zone, change his mind a little. Okay, so at basketball practice, John shows up in a thong again. And he's trying to convince the other men that they're good to wear for basketball.
Next, he's in the courtyard talking to Kate.
I'm glad she brought up what he said in the locker room and held him accountable for it.
Me too.
But I didn't like that he excused it because locker room talk is not an excuse.
No, it is not.
If you wouldn't say it out in the world, you shouldn't say it in a locker room either. He gives her his watch.
Yes, I like that he clearly has no idea what he's doing, but he's trying to make things right and be honest with her about his feelings.
I did feel a little bad for him here because he's clearly into this girl, like very into her, and actually wants a relationship with her. He's announcing it to the world that she's his girlfriend. It's clearly different than his other relationships.
The girls meet up in the AV room. They don't listen to Kate and make her feel really bad. And it becomes very clear that they're just obsessed with destroying John Tucker. They have blinders on to everything else and do not care about how Kate feels about the situation.
Yes, Carrie makes a good point in this scene that John did not fall in love with Kate. He fell in love with the version of her that they all created together.
Yes, and I think that's very important for her to hear as well.
Even if you're regretting doing the plan at this point, Kate, either way, you don't get John. It's not a real relationship.
Either he finds out you've been doing this or you pretend to be someone else for the rest of forever, which does not work.
It's totally valid for him to want to break up with her if he finds out she's been lying, because basing your relationship on a lie is not a good foundation.
Yeah, I think this scene kind of makes her realize what she's done, that she is going to hurt this person that she cares about, even though he does not know who she actually is. So that's why I feel bad for her in this situation. But I think all of the other girls, especially Carrie, bring up a very valid point that she is what they made her.
Mm-hmm. And then each of the girls walk out of the AV room and Scott sees them.
Yes. And Scott goes and finds Kate in the hallway.
This is another scene where I didn't like Scott.
I actually didn't mind him in this scene.
I don't like that Scott is shaming her for pulling the same shit that his brother pulls.
I saw it more as Scott trying to stand up for his brother and explaining to Kate like why John likes Kate and kind of warning her. I don't think his brother is necessarily someone worth standing up for in this situation, but I do understand wanting to protect your family members.
From this conversation, he seems to disapprove of his brother's lifestyle since he's getting upset with Kate for doing the same thing.
And I think this whole situation is probably escalated by the fact that Scott likes Kate. Kate's doing this thing to the brother. So he's definitely got all his own feelings tied up in how he's approaching the situation.
Then Kate goes home and now her mom is shaming her for planning to hurt a man who has hurt tons of women. I was glad that Kate's mom acknowledged that her dating life does affect Kate, but she was like on her high horse saying, I wouldn't intentionally hurt someone. Like, okay, you do you, I'm gonna do me. You and your daughter are separate people with separate lives and you can act different ways.
I think there's something to be said about people trying to help their kids through situations where they're concerned about what their actions are. You're trying to help your kid figure out how to navigate life.
I understand what you're saying. At some level, parents are obviously responsible for helping their kids learn about life. But this seems more like a situation where Kate just kind of needs to learn the lesson for herself. And it doesn't really matter what anyone says to her about it. She's going to do whatever she wants, clearly. And luckily enough, throughout this, she gets a conscience and starts to feel bad about hurting him.
Yeah, she's at a point where she's going to do what she's going to do. And I understand why her mom wants to caution her against it, but she's so deep in it. She's just going to have to learn for herself. Parents can have their best intentions trying to watch out for their children, but sometimes their child just has to do it.
So then it's John's birthday.
Yes, and Kate is on her way to try to tell John about everything.
His birthday looks like the MTV show My Super Sweet 16.
Oh, it does. And all I could think of when they showed the truck with all of the speakers in it is the Pimp My Ride show. His birthday is basically MTV.
That's hilarious. Earlier in the movie, Heather said that John Tucker's birthday is like prom and homecoming combined.
This is like the event of the year. So Kate arrives at John's party and is trying to find John. the other three girls have brought a tribute video to John and are trying to get that played. Kate wants to tell John the truth, that she's not who he thinks she is. And then at the same time, tribute video starts playing. All the people are like, happy birthday, John. Happy birthday, John. And then the video cuts to Kate saying,
John Tucker, there's only one guy out there for me, and you are not him.
That prompts some conversation.
Yeah, he's like, what the hell?
Yeah, she tries to explain to him what happened. He seems to take it okay. Then the girls come up and they're like, we're sorry. This is all our fault. He's confused. And the crowd starts to get angry and throws drinks.
Yeah, I really didn't like the guy who threw drinks on all of the women.
Also, just in general, throwing a drink on someone is probably not a great way to get them to stop talking. You're probably going to get some kind of wrath from that person.
It's super disrespectful to throw a drink on someone.
Then they all end up having a giant food fight together. I did not like what the girls ended up doing. It worked out okay. John Tucker can play anything off. And it actually ended up working out okay for Kate and John to talk about this up front on stage in front of everyone else. And it had a very good ending. Everyone seemed happy. And I'm glad that the girls kind of realized at this point, even though it's a little late, realized maybe they were blinded by revenge.
So then they go back to school.
Yeah, I'm really impressed that when Kate and John meet up outside of school, how civil they're able to be to each other.
As much as I want to hate John, I just can't. I love that he doesn't hold a grudge against Kate and he calls a truce and doesn't even seem mad about what happened.
Not at all. I think he realizes, yeah, I probably needed to learn something. If my ex-girlfriends went to this length to try to teach me a lesson, probably need to change.
I like that he's so understanding. He knows that he needed something like that to happen in order for him to make a change.
Yes, I think so too. He handles this in a really impressively healthy way.
Another trivia is that this scene of Kate and John talking at school after his party was not originally in the film.
Oh.
It was shot after filming had wrapped because they felt there wasn't enough closure between these characters.
I'm really glad they added this in. It adds all kind of closure because we get the closure between Kate and John. We get the closure between Scott and Kate, and we get Kate's friends acting like actual friends and seeing that they wanted to be friends with her after they've gotten their revenge, which helps flesh out their story arc a lot, which I liked.
This is a believable character arc because he hasn't had a total change in personality. He's still John Tucker. He's just more considerate now of the women that he dates.
This ends with him going up to a girl being like, hey, I'm John, and this is my other girlfriend. And they both are kind of like, wait, what? But he's being honest, which is really, really good.
Yes, I love that he's being open and honest now. Ethical non-monogamy John is way hotter than his deceitful previous self.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, then we watch the credits. And after the credits, there's a clip of some male teachers at the school wearing thongs sticking out of their pants.
Yes, I have thoughts about that. I just thought it was super gross and inappropriate for teachers to have their underwear sticking out so much.
If you're going to wear a thong, don't let it be visible to your students. We don't need to see our male teachers with whale tails. The only men that I need to wear thongs are plumbers. So we see less plumbers cracks.
I feel like a teacher should not be showing that much skin, no matter what, when they bend over.
Yeah, especially because of the double standard. Like if a female teacher reached up and her midriff was showing, I'm pretty sure she'd get called to the principal's office and be like, we need you to cover up because this is inappropriate for our students. But when it's a man's midriff showing, it just gets ignored. That's all my notes from the movie, but I have some concluding thoughts. I read another interview. This interview was Jesse Metcalfe, and he was talking about his character and said that John was a product of his environment, a high school hierarchy centered around athletic achievement and the entitlement it fosters. And that's not to excuse his actions, just explain them.
Yeah, this movie does use stereotypical masculinity as a plot device. He is the product of his environment.
Yeah, I wish that the movie had made more of a point to call out high school hierarchy, just how much entitlement comes along with athletes playing sports in America and the power that that gives people, even as high school athletes.
Yeah, I think that would have been good to be addressed more. But in a way, we kind of see it just in the fact that John Tucker can get away with everything. I know that's partially him, but also because he is so popular, because he's their star athlete.
I think that's all my notes.
They resolved this movie very well, I thought. I'm very happy with it.
This is another movie with a great soundtrack, full of throwbacks that really set the scene for the early 2000s. We have a couple of song recommendations to pair with this movie. Fuqboi by Hey Violet, for obvious reasons, and One Way or Another by Blondie, because these girls are determined to get back at John Tucker one way or another. Check our show notes for links to the soundtrack and our Songs from the Pod playlist.
Thanks for joining us as we rewatch John Tucker Must Die. Revenge plots are never a good idea, but they are especially difficult when hatched against an untouchable target like John Tucker. Luckily, in this movie, the girl's message gets through and John embraces honesty in his relationships going forward. Join us next week as we take a look at Bridesmaids. This film celebrates female friendship and is perfect to talk about in honor of International Women's Day.
See you next week, Lovebugs! If you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us a rating and review, and head over to our Instagram at Lovebug Club Pod and follow us to see what we have planned for future episodes.